Set your appointment at Hello Gorgeous. Our number is 352-351-5358. Again, that's 352-351-5358.
And don't forget, we also do men and children's cuts too. 351-5358.
Hello Gorgeous is conveniently located in the heart of downtown Ocala.
So call today and set up your appointment at Hello Gorgeous Salon at 351-5358. That's 351-5358.
Hello, gorgeous.
Tick-tock. The days fly by, and we find tax season is upon us once again. Not to worry, though. With a reputable CPA firm on your side, you can rest assured that all of your needs will be handled in a professional and thorough manner. Robson, Scribner, and Stewart is just that firm. They're there for their clients year-round, not just during tax season, to handle your needs and answer any questions you may encounter. At Robson, Scribner, and Stewart, there is no client too small or too large. Their expertise ranges from the single individual to the largest of corporations. Get your return prepared by a professional who will use their years of experience to ensure that your tax return's outcome will leave you in the best possible position. Call them today at 694-4184. Robson, Scribner, and Stewart. They're there for you today. Again, that number is 694-4184. Time is of the essence, so don't delay. 694-4184.
Howdy folks, RL here for Dairy Queen again to tell you about what's hot and what's not. Dairy Queen has some of the best char-grilled chicken breasts on earth, as well as their chicken breast salad. And the burgers are exceptional, cooked on a real grill for the best flavor and less fat. And for dessert, blizzards are unequaled. Personally, banana split is my all-time favorite. Dairy Queen Silver Springs, where we always treat you like kings and queens.
When asked, 1 out of 1 morning host on WOCA, that's me.
This is Ocala Talks with Tom Schmidt, bringing stories that are important to our community in and around Ocala. Plus, of course, a splash of sports as well. Now, here's your host, Tom.
Welcome back to Ocala Talks on a Thursday morning. Gremlins in the studio, computer glitches everywhere. But we're battling through it, folks. That's what we do here. We just battle through. You got to battle through. That's what you got to do. You can't do anything but battle through. And that's what you have to do. I saw this story this morning, and I thought, well, yeah, who didn't know that was going to happen? And the story I'm talking about is that there's a thing called the COVID slide. Now, what's the COVID slide, you may ask? Well, that's learning loss. And it's happened because of the pandemic. All of the students in Marion County shifted to online classes, as you remember, for the last 9 weeks of the 2019-2020 year. Third of all students are still online for part of 2021. And so that's led to a decline in learning by students because if you're not under the direct eyes of a teacher, if you're working from home and your parents have to keep you focused and all, they're not trained to do that. So sometimes they don't do as good a job as they need to do, and that causes a learning loss. And this learning loss has been dubbed the COVID slide. It's a lot like the summer slide, which is what educators have been dealing with for years. And what that is when you're out of school for that 10 weeks during the summer, you forget what you learned at the end of the year that would lead you into the new stuff for the following year in the next grade. Well, this is a statewide problem, but it's really here in Marion County where we're dealing with. Diane Gullett, the superintendent of schools, said that Marion County students in grade 3 through 5 have lost 5 percentage points on average in language arts and math scores compared to the same iReady practice test results from 2020. The data shows the losses were across the board at mostly all 31 elementary schools, not just Marion's state-designated bottom 300 schools. There's 11 of those schools on the watch list. The average decline was 5 percentage points district-wide on those third grade through fifth grade language, arts, and math tests. But in the bottom 300 schools in Marion County, it was 5.5 percentage points. Well, actually 5.3 percentage points. Marion County's 11 elementary schools on the bottom 300 list are Anthony Elementary, Bellevue Elementary, College Park, East Marion, Emerald Shores, Evergreen, Pheasant Elementary, Greenway Elementary, Oak Crest, Reddick Collier, and Wyomina Elementary. Nancy Thur, who is the chairwoman for the school board, said the State Department of Education, they need to go ahead and issue a statement on how it will use the spring's mandated testing data for school grades, teachers' evaluations, and the status of the bottom 300 schools. She went on to say, I wish the FDOE would already have made a statement about how they plan to use test scores. Whatever the statement is, it will go a long way to reduce the stress that everyone's been under. Thrower said the district will do everything it can to get students ready to test, but the state needs to use grace and compassion. Thrower says new standards were adopted by the state will begin for grades K through 12 in the 2021-2022 school year, and higher grades beginning in 2022-2023. She said that's when the state should resume using FSA data to determine school grades. Now, if you may not know, but educators know, student test scores are used to determine if a teacher is assumed to be the effective or highly effective. But if there's a learning loss and the state doesn't address that and say what they're going to do about this loss because students weren't in classrooms where teachers could actually teach them, this could end up negatively affecting teachers' pay. The state announced that the testing has been pushed to 2 weeks later than first planned. Local school officials agree that it should be pushed back, but they don't think it's enough. Thrower says she doesn't see how the state in good faith can implement the same Florida standard scales this year that was in place in 2018-2019. Now, the 2019-2020 tests were canceled, of course, because of the pandemic. Many schools are not showing the vital learning gains, which is a big component in how school grades are calculated. Learning gains, what is that? Well, that's a metric that shows how much a children has grown academically year over year. Joel Vining, a coordinator of school counseling and assessment, said that learning gains are determined by looking at each individual student's progress. However, proficiency used by the state doesn't compare the same students. For example, this year's third grade students are compared to last year's. Well, last year's third grade students didn't take the test because they were out because of the pandemic. So this is a problem that the state's going to have to address. Children were not in the environment to learn. They just weren't. That's what schools are, an environment to learn. Well, the last 9 weeks of last year, they were at home. And not a lot of them, because parents had to adjust on the fly, missed a lot of the computer online classes because parents had jobs that they weren't prepared to all of a sudden be home taking care of children who couldn't go to school. And then when a third of students still taking online classes, you're going to see drops in performance. And the state has not yet addressed how they're going to calculate grades given to schools and evaluations given to teachers, which, by the way, could affect the teacher's pay, the evaluation. The state hasn't given any guidelines on how they're going to calculate those test results this year. But it stands to reason you can't use the same system you had in 2018, 2019. The last year students were in class for the full year. Well, Tom, now if they were home learning and the teacher was teaching online, they were still getting teaching instruction. You have no idea how uncontrolled an environment is, online learning with parents in the backgrounds and dogs in the background and a TV on in the background and your little brother who's 3 or your little sister who's 3 running in and slapping you in the back while you're trying to learn or stuff like that. All those happen at home. They do not happen in the classroom. The classroom is a controlled educational environment. Your home is not a controlled educational environment. And the practice tests show it. These practice tests, they said 5% difference than the last time they were in school full time. 5% is a huge amount. And this could affect how teachers get paid. The state has to issue some guidelines here. 622-9622, the number to call if you have thoughts. But I think School Board Chairwoman Nancy Thur is entirely correct when she says the Department of Education needs to issue a statement soon. Not soon, they should have issued one already about how it will use this spring's mandated testing data for school grades, teacher evaluations, and the status of the bottom 300 schools, which Marion County has 11 of in the elementary education. There's not going to be, if you use the same standards, you're going to have more than 11 in the bottom 300. You're going to have some teachers taking pay cuts. And is that really fair? Because through no fault of their own, they were shut down. Their ability to do the job they were trained to do has been altered. And it's not the same online as it is in the controlled environment of a classroom. It's just not. We'll see how this plays out. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more about this in the near future. Coming up next, hour number 3 of the Ocala Talks radio program. I'm your host, Tom Schmitz, coming to you from WOCA, The Source.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
USA Radio News with Lance Pride.
Buried on page 305 of the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 is a provision that awards federal employees with kids as much as $21,000 for each household to stay home. The Emergency Federal Employees Leave Fund provision includes $570 million for government employees only. The bill ignored the same provisions for you and me. The FDA stated Wednesday that Johnson & Johnson's single-dose vaccine prevents COVID-19 and that the FDA will make a final authorization decision soon. Johnson & Johnson has an ongoing study of 44,000 patients in South Africa, the United States, and Brazil. There were 7 deaths recorded among patients receiving a placebo and 0 among those who got the vaccine. Last July, the USS Bonhomme Richard was damaged at a naval base in San Diego, California. Instead of spending $30 million in repairs, some lawmakers are asking to sink the ship off the Florida coast to create an artificial reef. USA Radio News.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule. Changing the world, one life at a time.
I had begun to notice after 10 days with Balance of Nature, I felt better, more energetic, and believe me, for me, that's something because I have energy anyway. But as old as I am, that was really something to start really noticing. You know, we're all responsible for choosing what our attitudes are, but I had a better mental outlook. I mean, I always try to be positive, but there were subtle things in me that I began to notice. I just felt a difference with this.
Get a wide variety of all your daily recommended servings of whole fruits and vegetables without having to leave your home. Right now, Balance of Nature is offering free shipping and 35% off on any new preferred order. Call 1-800-2468-751 or go to Balance of Nature and use discount code USA.
One day.
Some different types of greens you should be growing this spring. That's coming up on This Land of Ours.
Smart shoppers will tell you they found it on highbid.com. Highbid.com lets you explore thousands of auctions across the U.S. and around the world. You'll find gold coins, sporting goods, classic cars, collectible toys, fine jewelry, household items, and sports memorabilia autographed by the greats. Highbid.com has hundreds of thousands of items for sale every day. It's easy to search and it's easy to find auctions in your area. Just go to highbid.com, that's HIBID.com, and see what everyone is talking about.
I'm Agriculture Commissioner Nikki Fried. Everyone knows Florida grows the world's best produce. From citrus to strawberries, watermelon to blueberries, our produce growers feed our families and the world. With over $125 million in annual revenue for growers, the Fresh from Florida program helps Florida farmers stay competitive in a tough marketplace. Learn more at followfreshfromflorida.com.
Southeast AgNet is social. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, where you can be sure to find all of the agriculture news for the Southeast.
While there are many classic greens such as lettuce, kale, chard, and spinach we are accustomed to growing in our gardens, there are others that just haven't made quite the same splash. They are generally easy to grow and like to get started before those summer crops are ready to be outside. Some examples include arugula, collard greens, turnip greens, mustard greens, sorrel, and cress. But have you heard of fiddleheads? It's a slight twist on the term greens, and they're actually the furled fronds of the ostrich fern. So technically, they are kind of like leaves and can be harvested in early spring and prepared kind of like asparagus. Horseradish greens are great too. They are a milder version of the horseradish root we use more commonly. Mizuna, a close relative of mustard, is sometimes referred to as Japanese mustard greens. It has a slight peppery flavor and works wonderfully in salad mixes. I'm Kathy Isom, Southeast AgNet.
When it really counts, depend on the source for the latest weather updates, keeping you ahead of the storm. 96.3 FM,